Great. Thank you. I'm often uncomfortable with the idea of AI recording stuff or like somebody recording stuff, but they're amazing summarizing. And I'll give you the summary too, what they give you.
Cool.
So what I was going to tell you is that there's a few different places I've found online where you can create transcripts, homeschool transcripts.
Okay.
And the two places that I've resourced, but I know there's a third for sure, but two places. One is called the Homeschool website or the Homeschool Mom website. And then the other one is the Homeschool High School podcast or Seven Sisters Homeschool. I
A
don't know,
homeschool mom.
website. Yeah.
So is it like the homeschoolmom.com,
Yeah.
.ca?
You know what? I can't tell you for sure, but there is only one.
Okay. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's
so the
also
homeschool mom and the seven
homeschool
sisters.
homeschool high school podcast, who
Yeah.
Vicky is actually in my collective. Rarely is able to come because she's also a counselor and she's a coach of some sort. Um,
So it's called Homeschool High School
Homeschool high
Podcast.
school podcast.
Okay.
They were with me throughout my entire homeschool journey, and then I got to know Vicky separately. Love her.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then there's also the woman that I referred to you on Instagram. She definitely has created a lot of products around that. So one of the books that I purchased is called The Home Scholar Guide to College Admissions and Scholarship. Her name is Lee Binns,
Is she
Lee.
Canadian or American?
No, she's American,
Okay.
Binz. And she has loads of resources around.
Can you hold that up again for a second? I'm just writing it down.
Yeah. And I don't know if this one is as applicable
It's
to you.
not showing its
Yeah, it's
word.
not showing. The
So the
Home Scholar
homeschool guide.
Guide.
Oh, scholar guide. Okay.
Yeah, to college admission and scholarships.
Okay. I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Scholarships. And who's it by again?
Lee Binns, Lee
Yeah.
Binz.
Thank you. That's
And
great.
then for your encouragement and confidence, if you haven't already met this lady, it would be valuable for you to read Unschooling to University by,
Uh,
why am I forgetting her name?
I can probably Google her. It's okay.
You know who I'm referring to?
No, but I can Google her. Like if I Google unschooling to university, she'll likely come up.
Yeah, Judy Arnell. It just came to me.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and she's in Alberta.
Oh, that's appealing just because more
She
parallels.
gets, yes, and just a lovely person too. I've actually got an episode with her as well. But so I would
You
I
do? Do
I
you
do
remember what it's called?
something about anger because she's a child development specialist as well. So she has a book about patience.
Podcast.
Well, actually, I have one with Vicky as well on Homeschool High School. Yeah,
I feel like I haven't tapped into your podcasts as much as I could. And in this wintry, wet, cold season, I'm on the treadmill more. So that would be a good
yeah,
time to catch up.
yeah, yeah. That's me too. Elliptical, but yeah, that's where I live.
Oh, good for you. I just can't make friends with the elliptical.
Because of your knees, or
I don't
you
know.
have to tell me, of course.
Know why?
Yeah. Well, I don't actually care for indoor workout or exercise. What I really love lately is dancing, like just turning on
Ooh,
YouTube and some sort of dancing thing. That one works for me. But
that's cool.
yeah, so when it comes to homeschool high school, the other things that I wanted to share with you. So
Yes.
first of all, this transcript, uh, you get to create the course names. You get to
Yes.
the grade, you get to create the credits earned. And if you do the homeschool mom one, it will actually use like an Excel spreadsheet to calculate the year's GPA and the cumulative GPA. And so on one hand, it is more confusing, but on another hand, it's if you're familiar with Excel, it also makes it easier because they calculated it themselves. And because some of the classes that my kiddo went through, they really were formal classes that people gave grades to. So I could use those directly. But then there were other classes that I was like, okay, let's talk. What would you give yourself as a grade? Which sounds like a crazy kind of thing to say, hey,
No, it's not.
but they're actually really, she's really honest.
Yeah.
And she didn't say, yeah, Latin 100%. She didn't do that. And then she would explain to me why she would give a certain grade. But I would also suggest, if somebody's questioning that rationale, that when you look at a homes or a high school grade, like I'm seeing my son and the classes that he's taking and how they're choosing to grade, that's really random, some of that stuff.
Oh,
You
I
know,
have helped teachers do their report cards and
right? Okay.
put in their data. And I even had one teacher say to me, can you make a general blurb for this class that's all encompassing? You've been here for every class and that's your strength. So
Oh, great.
it's just, it's
Yeah.
that, I get it.
Yeah. So you've already done this then. You've already,
A tiny bit. I don't feel totally uncomfortable.
yeah, you'd be excellent at it, actually. I think you really would. You're articulate and you're thoughtful. I'm sure you would make excellent course descriptions. But
Wow.
I do. I think
Thankfully, I have some comfort in that area because I can't imagine. Oh, it went dark in here. Like I look really dark all of a sudden. I wonder why.
don't.
Oh, did I make it go away?
Nope, I see you. There, the sun came back.
Maybe that's what it is. Charlotte, are you close by? Can you turn the light on in the office for me? Can you turn the light on in here for me, please? Since it's out there, the switch. Turn it on, please. Yeah. Thanks. Sorry about that.
Nope, that's fine. So you're already somewhat familiar, which is really useful. What I would do is, not as you're writing or recording what she's doing, I wouldn't worry about how am I going to make a description on this. Now that AI exists, everything just got crazy easy, because you could actually like just record generally once a week, once a day, whatever you feel comfortable with, but what she has been doing. And if you can think about her activities in separate categories, not that it's necessary for her learning, but it's useful for a transcript to think about, okay, what sort of sciencey things is she doing? Or, or you could even take the activities that she's doing, if you're not sure, copy and paste it and say, what kind of school subject would you see the following activities? What subject would you create around these activities into AI? And then it'll give you an idea yourself if you're not sure.
That's brilliant. It's not going away.
It's not going away. No,
Right now,
like the
this
computers,
is
they're
my
not going
high
away.
tech. This is my high tech situation. This is a 5 subject, 5 star that I have gotten each subject in until I can get onto something that's better technology, just so I have a starting point, right?
That's funny.
We have a humanities section, a social section, a science section. Tell me you're from the 80s where everything was in a binder in its own section, right?
Yes.
But I had to go with what I knew until I could
Yeah.
learn what I didn't know.
I still like written stuff myself, actually, especially for certain things. Yeah. So then I would just record what she's generally doing from week to week. And then by the end of the year, also extracurriculars, any book she reads, if you don't already have a routine where she tells you what books she's reading because she's older and she doesn't want to, then you could just say, hey, can you put your stack of books here? Or, any things you're researching this week, or, volunteer work, or like the Bible study, or anything whatsoever that she's routinely doing, a part-time job, travel, all of that can become separate courses, separate activities.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And I love the piece where you have reminded me a couple of times to ask her where she would put it, or to
Yeah.
help have her be motivated to categorize.
And it helps you to have those conversations with her to know what she values and and how she's thinking about different things. It actually helps to clarify. Really, it's like almost like college coaching or adult coaching where you're transitioning into this next phase of life. And then she's got an opportunity to think about what matters to her right now. But anyways, that's just mothering 101.
That's like 501.
That's good.
It should be 101. It should be. That should be
Yeah.
taught first, not last, but it tends to come in last.
Yeah. To listen to the child, you mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just, yeah, it
Yeah.
should be 101.
Yeah. Yeah. I certainly
It's
didn't
like,
get that right
I feel
away.
like for parenting, you try everything, and if nothing works and you've tried it all, you go, fine, I'll just ask the kid to see what she comes up with, right?
Totally. Absolutely. 100%. Like, I don't know what we're thinking when we do that. But anyways, I did it. I mean, I still sometimes default like that, where I just
Oh yeah.
assume that I should say something instead of ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Really in every relationship, actually, but especially in the mother role. Yeah.
So I've
So,
listed here the Homeschool Mom, Homeschool High School podcast, the Homeschool
yes.
Scholar Guide, Unschooling University. You mentioned Arnell,
Mhm.
Dries, what was her
Judy.
first? Judy Arnell. You
Yeah.
mentioned Vicky, the two podcasts. You talked a bit about the course naming and credits and descriptions for a transcript.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything important
Well, no,
that you've said to this point? Okay, good.
no, I've got more.
Awesome.
Like for instance, where did I put this? Creating credits. How to decide how many credits. There is variation on what I'm about to share with you. So this
Good.
is necessarily fixed for the province of BC. In fact, Canada just doesn't do what the United States does. Canada is like, no, you just need your high school transcript. I remember saying, why can't my child just have SATs? You do the SATs and then go into university before, like that's actually a hard way to do this. But initially I thought, why can't they just do SATs and the college accept it? Because the colleges here proctor them, but they don't accept them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Did you notice the US is in a bit of a flap right now because one of the things the new incoming government wants to do is give education to the states. Right now, it belongs to federal, to the country, and they want to give
yes,
it to the states, and people are
yeah.
really upset about that. And I'm like, well, Canada already does, and it has its pros and it has its cons,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
we
Yep,
don't have an assumed body of knowledge across our country.
that's right. Yep,
And if a kid moves, it's not the same. So, but also
it is
provinces
true.
like to have their own autonomy. So, anyways, it's interesting that you talk about how it's not just transcripts
Yeah,
like the states, or not, sorry, not just like those exams that everybody takes.
I think it's going to have to all shift eventually, not anytime soon, because none of our institutions will shift quickly. But
No.
if I think sometimes the colleges are influencing the high school more than the other way around. But
Oh,
colleges
do you?
well, I mean,
Interesting.
I'm not doing a deep dive into every aspect of this, but when, in my era, we did something called PBL, problem-based learning, and then they quickly called
Yes.
it context-based learning, but that was new, and that was a college idea. That wasn't something we did in high school. But then if they're doing things in a very loose way, or I don't know if you want to call it loose, but if you're doing it that way, then how do you decide whether or not a child in high school is able to apply to a program? There's a lot of discussion around this area, but I would say that really my point is that the traditional approach to high school, I think, like thinking three things at once. I think it's kind of a waste of time. It's just busy work, of course, but it's also
Yeah.
not really funneling people into some meaningful next level approach to college or university. And even the college and university is expecting to engage differently than a high school. So,
Absolutely. The college and university professors and teachers are often tearing their hair out at what they receive when students arrive. They can't think, they can't learn, they can't
right.
organize themselves, and.
And why not? I think they can't because they've had everything prescribed to them. In
Yeah.
fact, my last conversation on podcast was with a 23-year-old and her mom, and how she put it better than I think I could. She was like, you're telling kids what to think all the time and how to think and what to do. And then all of a sudden you want them to own their lives and then show up independently.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing. And
Yeah.
you have the beauty of giving that different, or giving Charlotte something very different.
That's the hope. That's the goal. Absolutely the
I think
goal.
it's a guarantee. The more time, or if freedom that you give her, or allowance to really develop who she is, she will naturally do that. Because she's just used to it.
Yeah,
Whereas,
that's the hope.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
when it comes to credits, so I've heard this
Yes.
commonly spoken, but I can't guarantee that any one state would necessarily agree with this. But credits for, say, language arts, if you do 120 hours of language arts, which is like anything related to reading, writing, all those things,
Yeah.
you can get 4 credits. Or for science, history, and math, doing 90 hours each, it gives you 3 credits in either science, history, or math.
Interesting that they break it down differently. Mind you, language arts is more all-encompassing. That's literature, that's mechanics, that's essays, that's all
Yeah,
of the things, right? So that makes
that's
more
right.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Languages, which for us was Latin or French, 60 hours is 2 credits, which is
Okay.
about 2 hours a week, something like that.
It's about
My,
2 hours a week. Yeah.
my kids did dance, so that would depend on how much dance. One of them did a lot of dance, but like
Yeah.
1 to 4 credits. And a
So
work,
Charlotte is a music person, not a dance
right.
person.
Yes,
She
beautiful.
she has a private vocal lesson every week and a group vocal lesson every week.
Yeah.
Um, and she's involved in community productions. So
Uh-huh.
she has a lot. So between community productions, the group lesson, the private lesson, all the practicing, and she works in the music program now that she's participates in as a helper to the young kids. So
Beautiful.
that's a big, big part of her life. She wouldn't be able to do all of this if she was at school all day.
I know. I know. That's exactly my experience. They do way more. In fact, I can't remember what my daughter's credit number was, but it was an absurd number. It was like, I don't know, 175 or something crazy. And then I'm like, we have to just delete a few of these things because nobody's going to believe this.
No what, and they're not going to believe it. And plus, they'll be mad and defensive and argumentative about it because it also is just another shining light on an alternative that nobody wants to acknowledge anymore.
But curiously, okay, yeah, curiously, when she gave the transcript, and I've heard this from many people, especially in BC, when she gave them the transcript, they just wanted it on file. They didn't even care. They were just like, great, now I've got something written down.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, I'm like, okay, here we go again, another transcript. It was the third time that I did that. And then I'm like, okay, it's like so pressured. It's such a big deal. Here I'm writing at the very bottom something like, I guess I can have that one. I wrote like the official transcript, section 1213 of the BC School Act, as the school instead of an actual school. And then I wrote her name, her pen number for in BC. It doesn't look like a BC school
Yeah.
transcript. It's not the same, but I try to make it literally look as similar, and I put a lot of work into that. And yet they didn't care. They were just like, great, done, next.
I believe it.
Yeah. But I was going to say too that a work practicum, which is what you were just describing, she's doing 8 hours a week, could be 1 credit.
Okay, hold on. I got to write that down.
Yeah.
Work. You called it a work what? Practicum.
A practicum. Yeah. Although, even I'm looking at that going, why is it that 8 hours a week of work would be 1 credit, but 2 hours a week of second language is 2 credits? I don't know. It's interesting.
The other thing I was going to do to help me figure out how many credits to attach to things is I was going to go to the BC online school that has all those online courses. And I
Yeah.
was literally going to look for course idea names and see how many credits they attached to it and how many hours they said it took.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because even still, like it all doesn't mean anything except, in my opinion, it is really lovely to have because then you're like, oh, I celebrate with you. This I'm showcasing all the things that you did over the last 3 or 4 years. But really it doesn't mean anything. It
Yeah.
just makes them feel safe, like the system. It makes them feel, oh, okay, she's done something. And in
Yeah.
reality, she's done a lot more than most kids would in school.
Did you worry about grade 9 or did you just start to do for grade 10?
I did start doing it in grade 9 because I was that ready for my oldest daughter. And I was doing it from grade 9 onward. But in our world, we don't have to worry about it at all. There, nobody's
That's what I
asking.
thought. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. Grade 10 and up should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it is absolutely. In fact, I mean, even like my kids went into grade 10 and it was like nothing. Like people ask, what about the transition going into school? And it's like, what transition are you worried about? Because they were just completely fine.
I know what happens. The homeschool kids come home from high school and go, "You've been making me work way harder than them for a long time."
Yes,
That's what
exactly.
happens.
Yes. Yeah. Or it's not as exciting as I thought it was. I heard that.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. A lot of busy work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know what I think you can do just to think, you probably made a few CVs or like resumes or that sort of thing. Just think in resume for your child. Now, they're not really asking you particularly for a resume, but it's
Yeah.
valuable to think in that format because then you're paying attention to the things that matter.
That's awesome. I'm just writing that down. That's great.
No, this all assumes that she will even need it, of course, right? Because
Who
maybe
knows?
she won't. Maybe she won't.
Maybe she won't. Hopefully she won't. She has an uncomplicated life and that doesn't
Keep it
have to
that way.
jump through hoops eternally. Or maybe she will. Depends what
Yeah,
she chooses.
yeah. It's hard to know. Certainly, I know this. You don't know when they're young. In fact,
No,
you don't know until they actually do it, is my experience. Do you have
definitely.
any questions before I go on?
Let me think here. Let me look quickly at what I've written down, see if I have any questions. Um, you've gave me you've given me places to look where I can find some structures
Yeah.
to hang it on if I want to. We've talked about credits, course descriptions, and hours. We've talked about some websites and some podcasts. What else am I wondering about? I guess if I wanted to create with her a transcript that, so the homeschool mom is the place that you recommended that had the more structured. Does
Oh,
she have a
yeah.
template? Like, is there a
Yes.
template?
Yes. Also, Homeschool High School has one too.
Okay, I'm putting that right here. Transcript templates. Okay. Great.
So Self-Design released what do you call it? Like a letter or something a number of years ago on how you could get into post-secondary schools without or as a registered homeschooler. And I kept it. And it's
Oh,
one of the biggest, fastest, easiest ways to get into a college is actually just to take a class when you're in high school. And
I'd
immediately
forgotten about that tip.
it's a really good one because it fuels your confidence and it'll fuel hers too.
So smart. Do
When
you
my
still
daughter,
have that somewhere?
I do, it's sitting right in front of me.
Are you willing to share it? I don't care if it's a screenshot, like however it's easiest.
Yeah, this is November 2019, so I'm sure you could actually get it from Self-Design updated.
So I looked when we were figuring out where Charlotte was going to land in terms of being signed up somewhere, and went at the registered, and self-design was full for enrolled, but we're kind of stuck at the school we registered now because the dates have passed. So I
Right.
don't know what self-design makes available just to the public.
Yeah. They're the
Mm.
biggest ones in the province, right? So I'm sure they do. And
Yeah,
they would like to bring you into their world, I'm sure.
yeah, that's a good reminder.
So what I was going to tell you though is that even if she's taking online classes with, say, Athabasca University, which is in Alberta officially,
Forgot about them, yeah.
yeah, but doing that is like also a transition space, partly for her, for Charlotte to get comfortable with what it's like to be in college. When Madeline was in college and doing high school, she was like, I don't know, mom, like they're going to be so academic and they're going to be so organized and they'll know how to be in the classroom. And, anyways, you and I both know that was not the case. They were asking her for the homework and asking her to summarize books because she actually did the work and they weren't. And so she was surprised by that. The only thing that she learned or had to learn, I should say maybe there's two, but I remember from her words, was that she was not accustomed to being in a big group like that and everybody sharing their opinions or thoughts on things. She wasn't used to that. So
That would be
maybe,
distracting too if you're used to a quieter learning space.
yeah, but it was also, I actually found it really useful for my son when he was expected to do a lot of presentations. So it was useful for him to do that in a public space. She found that challenging, but I remember too that the very first exam that she ever had was in college, and it was to get into college. At the time, they had this entry test that they no longer have, but that she would have to complete in Kelowna at UB or UBCO.
Oh,
And
yes.
that was her very first exam in a college classroom with 60 people. And that I did not prepare her for. And I'm not exactly sure what I would think would be the ideal way to prepare a child for that. She'd already taken exams online, but it wasn't the same.
That's a good question. Just talking about what that could look like, feel like, um, I guess you could look for videos or movies or YouTubes where you see what it looks like. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I can think of off the top of my head. What age or grades were your kids when you had them do the college?
When they went into college, you mean?
No, like when they were still in high school, but took like a college course. Like,
15, 16, but I was like flex for them to start at 14 if they wanted to. And like my oldest was always rip roaring, ready to do all these independent things, but she's like, Mom, no, I'm way too young. She was not way too young, but she felt uncomfortable about it. So,
yeah,
to me, I wouldn't push it. If somebody's interested, great, then let's talk about what courses. But I wouldn't push it because it's not some miracle transition into college either.
no,
It's just an experience. And if
yeah.
they're interested or game, then that's cool.
Yeah, for Charlotte, I would think more like grade 11, 12, just knowing who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. So then there's also TRU, which isn't too far away from you. And
Thompson River University. That's
yeah,
Kamloops. Yeah.
but it's
So this
online as well. They have online classes and even getting yourself and getting her in the system that way, taking a class, it would make it an easier transition for it being accepted into a program.
such a smart thing to do. Such a smart approach for so many reasons. Just for the individual child's benefit, but also just to, stick the toe in the door and get it open.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then they already know, the college already knows how she performs or how she shows up in class. And I made sure with every job and with every course that she did well in to get a referral letter of some sort.
Referral letters, very smart.
And I don't know if she's into science or math, or I guess there's a myriad of classes, but Apologia is solid in academics.
That's what we're using.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because not only is it solid and it really does train you to do the work and do deep dives of things, not to do the superficial work. Um, But, even 4 or 5 years later, when Madeline wanted to do the pre-med program, she talked to I think it was a chemistry or physics teacher, and he remembered her, and he gave her a beautiful referral letter and was super
That's
excited when
awesome.
she got into the program. So that's a really useful tool to add to your portfolio.
Yes, I wrote down referral letters with big stars.
Yes, it's huge. Any questions?
Um, I
Selkirk
love that
College.
you're
Yeah, sorry, Selkirk College too.
okay. Yeah, I'm gonna write, where did I put that? Selkirk. Of the three, Athabasca, TRU, and Selkirk College, which one has been your experience that carries the better reputation or is a better educational experience, do you think, for
I,
that?
I understand that it depends on what program you want to go into. So I don't know that I'd be able to comment on that, honestly. I do know
Okay.
that, coming from a smaller community, I think going into a really big university feels very daunting. Like,
I'm sure. Yeah,
yeah,
both my boys, one went to UBC and one went to Trinity Western.
yeah,
And UBC, Trinity transition was fine, but the UBC one was like, oh, because
yeah,
that was a big deal.
yeah. Yeah, my son said he doesn't want to do that. They went down a few weeks ago, all the physics kids.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah, and
Yes.
he was like, "Nope, it's too big. Don't want to do that." And I'm like,
My
"Great,
son did that too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. He went down for the physics things at UBC. He did. Because even going from a high school small town, never mind homeschool, even high school small town
yes,
into UBC is a big deal.
yes, it is." And I don't know what your post-secondary school experience was, but that was my experience too.
Yeah. I just did local stuff here in Terrace. I did a little
Yeah.
bit in Prince George, and
Okay.
I don't think I did any post-secondary in the Lower Mainland. I took professional development stuff, but not post-secondary. Maybe the Justice Institute, but that's more niche, not
Yeah.
university.
Because when I was like an alumni to 6 different places in Northern Alberta, I
Just
did
six.
just like, yeah, for various reasons. But I
Yeah.
did what was then called NABC. I think it's called Taylor University in Edmonton. So, and then Prairie Bible College. And then I went to Nate and Grant MacEwan, which is now a university, and U of A. And
Wow.
I mean, it depends on the class that you would ask me about which one I preferred. I took 4 psychology classes and one of them was in Prairie, and I think the Prairie one was the best out of all of them, most usable content. Um, but the university, like the U of A, it has a cachet to it, but it was daunting and huge, and the
Okay.
teachers weren't engaged. Whereas Grant MacEwan, when I was doing, like, I did a transfer program. So at the time, it was a community college, a beautiful community college, which U of A didn't have because they're old and big. And then it shuffled us into U of A. So we were in the same program. But I had better engagement with professors in the Grant MacEwan than I did at U of A. It's all depending on
Interesting.
what people want and definitely what program they're taking. Yeah.
Think that's so true. Thinking about Athabasca, they kind of were trailblazers. They got the
Mhm.
online stuff down early
Yep.
and best. Now that could go either way. They've had time to develop and become really good, or they
Yeah,
may just be kind of stuck in their old original ways,
that's right.
right? That would be the kind of things
Yeah,
that
that's right.
to look out for because they could be stellar or they could
Yeah.
just be old and stodgy.
Yeah, it's really tricky. I mean, who knows what's happening exactly, but there's so much competition for students right now that
Oh yeah, it's because it's all money now. It's
I
all about
know. That's why I'm
money.
like, it doesn't matter what your transcript is, they would like you. You're welcome. Yeah, just
It's more of a
pay.
business model than an education model now,
Yeah.
based on what I've seen.
Yes, that's what I hear too. And certainly certain programs, like if you want to do nursing or medicine or I don't know, accounting or like CPA or a CA, I should say, then you have to go through certain programs, period. And
True, for
and
now.
yeah, for now, touche. Yeah, yeah,
Because didn't they change your pre-med now that there used to be only certain degrees you could enter with, and now you can enter with
right.
almost any degree because they're
Yeah,
trying to round out the
yeah.
people, right? They're
It is
trying
really
to,
tricky to get into medicine though.
Regardless, that's true.
Yeah, it really is. They'll make it hard for you. But when you're in, they want to keep you in. So anyway,
Right. That's
um,
interesting too.
yeah,
Oh,
I
this is super helpful,
you,
specific
you
stuff.
I'm really glad all the things that I've really garnered over the years. And this isn't just my experience, this is the loads of people that I know. I remember back in the day thinking, there is no way this is like too pioneering to put your child or you register your child and then get them into college. Like that's next level out of the box thinking. But now I see not really. It's just an
Yeah.
extension of what you've been doing.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest freedom or thought of freedom that you can have around this entire topic of maybe one day going into college is that adult um what do you call it, adult admission is just 19, like it's age 19 or maybe it's 21 at certain places. That's not that old.
No, I think it's some places you just have to be out of high school age for a year.
Yeah, exactly. And in my experience, I didn't have maths and sciences ready for nursing. I just wanted to do nursing. And then I, not coincidentally, booked a conversation with somebody and I told them what I was up to and why I wanted to do it. And they said, okay, just okay. And but they did tell me I had to choose either math 30, I was in Alberta, math 30,
Yes.
chem 30, if I wanted to go into the program, and that I'd have to do that alongside my nursing classes. And I truly was scared spitless, but I did really well in chemistry 30. I didn't do math 30.
That's
Um,
great.
so then I was motivated and I did it
Mhm.
because I was motivated.
Oh, yeah. And my limited experience with my own children and watching others around me, there's so many benefits to delaying entrance.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
many benefits. I mean, some never go, and their
Yeah.
parents think, oh, if we just push them to go right away, then maybe they'd have stuck to it. But really, those kids probably wouldn't have finished it anyway.
Yeah, 70% or something dropout rate for the first year.
Yeah.
Kind of high and
Yeah.
expensive
Oh, yeah.
when you're
Absolutely.
when you're doing something you don't want to do, but you spent 70, 60, $70,000 on this thing.
Yeah. That was my first son's experience. He changed after
Yeah.
2 years, and it was Trinity that's big money.
Yeah.
Trinity was big
Private.
money.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Because it is. It's private. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was very expensive. And he
For sure.
changed his mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the other thought though is that okay, so I guess I have two thoughts at once. If I ever slow down, you know that I'm thinking two things at once. But
Sure.
one of them is that when I went into college myself, I was an older student, or I should say, when I went into nursing. And I remember thinking there's a lot of girls around me because I was in nursing. So there's only two guys in my class at the time.
Yeah.
And these girls were just from high school. They were partying on the weekends. They were living at home. I wasn't any of those things. I was
Yeah.
working really hard because it was on my dime.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I had to be motivated. And I remember thinking, wow, lucky. But they also didn't care. And it's just what you just said.
Nope.
They weren't
Yeah.
motivated. They didn't care. They're just doing what they were told to do or
Hmm.
expected to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the big, big shining difference. So our first kid, we just paid for everything. And our
Yeah.
second, and partway through, we had to change gears.
Mm.
And they had to contribute more heavily financially to it. We
Yeah.
contributed,
Yeah.
and then we made them get a student loan for the difference and didn't
Yeah.
tell them. But when they completed, if they completed well and strong and stuck to it, then we just paid it off. But they didn't know
Nice.
we were going to do that.
Oh, that's good.
And
Yeah,
both,
I have also
and we
found
told the
that.
ones, don't tell your brother this is what we do.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because I know that I get why people want to just pay everything straight up and just like go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
One friend when I was graduating high school said her parents were supporting her first degree and then she'd have to pay for her second degree. And for me, I was just like, what? For real? You can afford to do
Uh,
that?
yeah.
Apparently they could. But when it comes to getting into college, You're going to hear many stories like this, but my husband went through pharmacy and he went through the research year, so 5 years of pharmacy, and he didn't like it when he worked for a year and then realized I don't want to do this for the
Yeah.
rest of my life. And
Yeah.
so he didn't have the prereqs for medicine. He did it through Athabasca University while he was working, and he
There
got
you go.
prereqs and then moved into medicine. And there's like stories like this everywhere. So my
Yeah.
bottom line,
My confidence level for her in that is much calmer now.
oh good.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what I'm trying to instill is that there's stories upon stories of people doing things unconventionally, but it
Yeah.
was on the right timeline for the person.
Yeah. And government wise, it could work to her favor too, because I think that, well, no, that's federal, not provincial. We'll see what happens. Because Canada's not going to turn to a federal education. I was going to say, because our next election, I bet you federally will likely go conservative as
Yeah.
the ebb and flow of time goes, because we don't have a good central party. Um,
Yeah.
but that's not going to help her because that's all, we're not American. It's not regulated at that level.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not even
So,
remotely like that. We will not
no.
have all of our student loans forgiven, I'm sure. Last 4 years, they were doing that in the States, apparently. Um,
Wow.
I- I'm not even sure that that's a really wise choice anyways, because
Yeah.
I mean, besides, if you don't have the money, should you be really giving that kind of money to random people? But I just, when you own something, in other words, you are paying towards
Yeah,
something,
absolutely.
then you ask yourself, do I really want to be doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And I frankly have been doing that the entire way. The one time I sat in on a homeschool conference seminar where I knew they were going to sell me something and I bought it was some sort of financial program. And that was early in our homeschool days, where essentially it was teaching the kids you are responsible for certain things and you have an allowance, but they didn't call it that, towards certain things. But it was like paying for your own clothes. And then by 16, you wouldn't have that allowance anymore. And so you had to figure out how to make income towards certain things.
I'm not familiar with this. Somehow this one missed my radar entirely because I've been at this since like 2002.
Well, I'll write it down. I don't remember what the name is, but I have a post on that too. Really funny that I've been writing forever, had no idea that one day I would actually be sharing it with other people.
You just never know. That's the
Yeah, you
people
never
who
know.
should share, the people who have invested and done it over time and then realize, oh, people, I have something valuable to say and people want to hear it. Okay, well,
Yeah,
this
that
is
is.
just what I've been doing all along versus I want um I want notoriety, I want to be a
Yeah,
leader, I want to be heard, I want
influencer.
to build a brand and
Mhm.
then figuring out what people want. That's like politics. Okay, I want to get voted in. What is it that people are going to say yes to that they want? Okay, that's who I'll be, right?
Yeah,
Versus you who
that's the world.
that's who you
Yeah.
are anyway. So now you have something to offer. It's
But what
entirely
you
different.
said, it is different. It's impact versus influence, I think. But what you said about owning your voice, or like I've already always been doing this, and I really have always been doing this, but
Yes.
also now I'm formally thinking. The reason I recorded it is because I'm like, I know I'm about to give you a load of things that I'm not talking to every homeschool mom about. So then I want to be able to organize all of this so I can create actual content for people.
I
Especially,
forgot that this was being recorded. Now my little brain's going back. What did I say?
oh,
Uh-oh.
but it's okay because it will not go anywhere without your permission. It is
And
to
I don't think I've said anything. I'm 55. If I said it, I said it. You know what I mean? That stage.
absolutely, which is exactly what I was saying, that you begin to own your voice more when you've written things and you'd helped people for long enough. Then you're like, no, I actually am helping people. It's not just my opinion. And also,
You've earned
right,
your space, your place.
yeah, exactly. And I don't, you're at, this is the other conversation that we're going to have next time. It's about you finding what you want to do or your next step or getting more clear on your intentions after she graduates, or at least that's what I recall we were going to talk about.
I was going to ask you because I can't remember. I've got my papers in front of me, but
And for
planning.
me, that's very much about you owning your voice and really getting clear on what matters to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a wild and powerful place to actually speak what you know to be true, even if you disagree with yourself in 10 years, which has happened to me, or other
And
people.
you don't you think you should though?
Yeah, I do. I really do. You're especially as a nine, like it would be harder for you. I do honor and acknowledge that. But there is
Mhm.
something because you're really good at harmony, you're really good at peacemaking and listening and all of that. But also I think we're here for a reason and we have to figure out what it is. And so then
Oh,
we have to go to it.
absolutely. And we should change and we should evolve and we should grow. I
Mhm.
one reason I regret that I never kept a journal is it would be interesting and embarrassing. Like I found a piece of paper. I wrote my testimony years ago, and I
Yeah.
thought, and I couldn't bring myself to read it. I just thought,
Mm.
oh, I don't want to read what that idiot wrote.
Mm.
I put it away and I'm like, I can't bear to look at who I was or who I've become or
Mm.
how I've changed because do you know
Um,
what I mean? Like it felt like, oh, I have to look at that another day because I know I'm different now
well,
and should be.
absolutely, you should be. And there's times where I've written stuff because I've written for so long on this website that I'm like, oh, I don't want to say that. That doesn't sound kind, or I don't
Yeah.
think that anymore. And yet I still think that the grace that we're given, I think we need to give ourselves the same grace. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm shutting that down.
I had a really, this is completely off topic right now, but it
Oh,
is a
good.
really big moment for me in that directly applies to this. In 2004, in the passport office, when I was trying to get my passport renewed, I was reading a book called The Normal Christian Life by Watchman Nee. He's a Chinese missionary.
Such a deep thinker.
Yeah,
I
and
have a book on the shelf, but I don't think it's the normal Christian life.
different one.
Yeah. But anyway, I do have one of his books. So go ahead.
It's all about the book of Romans and grace. And I remember in a flash, it was almost like there was literally light that just enveloped me. It felt so profound in the moment. Whatever I'd read
Yeah.
told me, you know this story of grace. You've been sharing the story of grace with everybody. You've been using the story of grace to help other people feel accepted and not just accepted, but like to know that they're doing the right thing. But you don't know this grace. You're trying
Mm,
to prove to me, as though God was speaking to me, you're trying to prove to me why you're valuable or why you're worthy. But I already did this thing for you, not because I knew you were good enough for me to do it for.
yeah.
And boom, everything shifted for me. So
That
then
is wonderful.
it is wonderful. I must say it was a little terrifying because it really shifted everything and how I was showing up. But more real, like a whole
Oh
different level
yeah.
of more real. And also questioning everything, wondering like, why am I doing everything the way I'm doing it? And why is everybody else doing everything the way that we've decided is the right way to do things?
Yeah.
And so it was at that point, I bring that up because it was at that point that I don't see myself in that kind of like, ooh, that was horrible. You shouldn't have done that kind of way. Now I see it as you did what you knew to do, and now you know better, so you do better.
Yeah. Absolutely know better, do better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Including how you perceive yourself, I guess.
Yes, very much so. Because if you are seeing yourself as, I don't know, not good enough or always flawed, if you see yourself like that, like what's the natural ramification of that? You're
I think most people do see themselves that way, except, and then there's the whole other ones that think so highly of themselves because they're in an unhealthy or a broken or a dysfunctional space.
yeah. Except that I think that was actually a very false sense of um like seeing themselves highly. I don't think they really do. I think they're putting bravado out there and putting an image out
You're probably right.
and trying to convince themselves that they're okay.
You're probably right.
But anyways, I
That's
digress
valid.
a
That's
lot.
okay. That's very valid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because of that, I actually can look back and go, okay, I just was what I was. And I am what I am now, and I'm confident I won't be what I am 10 years from now. I know I won't
Mhm.
be.
Well, you're purposing to have a growth mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
And once you purpose that long enough, I think you put it on, like it starts to become automatic over time, although we can never just assume that it will be automatic. But yeah, growth mindset.
Yeah. And I think it's why I can be with people no matter what, because I can see that we're always being invited into a growth journey. And you can
Yeah.
call it sanctification, you can whatever, you can attach a Bible verse right now, but I take that away so I can connect with anybody. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, we're,
Fair.
we're growing and we're being called to grow. Anywho, all of that to say there is no like fixed moment in time where we need to make sure that Charlotte is ready to go to the next thing. The
Yeah.
school, the school world would like to suggest that to us, but we know it not to be true because we have all these stories that tell us this is not, there's not one moment, excuse me, there's not one moment where she should be ready.
Yeah.
And there's a million ways to get into college outside of the traditional high school approach.
So some of those we talked about was going back as a mature student, taking a college course, just having a good transcript ready that feels a bit like a resume, and going
Yeah.
in and having conversations to find out what's possible, even though it's not listed in the course catalog as possible.
And the first time that I went to a college and asked about a college English course for my high school student locally, they said to me, yes, absolutely. And I was like, wow, that was easy. And then when I got there and they required her to take a course or take an exam to see where she was at in language or in writing and reading and all that comprehension, um, they said, yes, she is accepted into the high school English class. And I went, that's not what I said. And they said, well, no, but she's not college age. We can't do that. And I went, I would like to talk with the English chair of the college.
Yeah.
And I did. And she went,
Good.
great. Yes, she can come in the class. Just like that. Yeah.
See, yeah, just not being afraid to go up the ladder, for lack of a better word, and not just accepting the first no.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes there's still things that you need to, jump hoops in. But I remember listening to I want to say a kid, but he was probably 35 at the time.
Kid.
Kid. And he was a lawyer now. He'd gone to Trinity Western. He was a lawyer and he was a registered homeschooler that moved into law at some point in after high school. And I remember asking him, like, how did you do that? Because you were essentially unschooled the way he described it. And he's like, well, I wanted to do it, so I figured it out. Aha.
I
That's when
wanted
he
to do
started.
it, so I figured it out.
And so then he decided to jump hoops. And I've watched my own kids do that. They didn't come from a traditional homeschooled background, not the
Yeah.
part they remember. And yet they had so much autonomy to do the things that really mattered to them. And they did a lot of very interesting things that when they made a choice to either go into high school, which wasn't what I assumed would happen at all, and frankly wasn't in favor of, but when they decided to do that, or when they did do that, or when they did do the college, or when they did, later on do college, they did the things intentionally because they wanted to, not because everybody else was doing it, not because this is what it was expected of them. They were doing it on purpose, and they're still doing that. So I would rather them live the next 60, 70, 90 years or 2 days living intentionally instead of doing what everybody else expects them to do.
Yeah. And being
Okay.
comfortable in their skin to do that, and confident
Yeah.
to do that, and okay with not being like everybody else.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, we should have that conversation too. I realize what time it is, but I see this pattern with my kids that they're like, I don't want to be stuck in something if I don't want to do it. And that
That
definitely,
really speaks of that generation too.
yeah, I guess it could, but even their peers are more likely to like, no, I have to do this thing. But maybe it's partly generational. But I did see or listen to one unschooled mom who is now unschooling. She's 40. She's not a kid. Somehow 35 to 40 is magical transition to adulthood. But
Yeah.
she's a 40-year-old, and I heard her recently talk about her unschooled experience and how that's influenced her choices as an adult, her and her two siblings. And they just don't think inside the box, but they are confident and just very like, I know what the next thing is, and I'm going to do that thing. And I would rather my kids live outside the box than inside the box. I mean, and it's, to me, it's a guarantee if you're going to do that. Now, the risk is this, that your child will live outside the box in ways that you weren't expecting them to.
Oh, guaranteed. Almost guaranteed.
Okay, right? I didn't want to say that out loud just in case it's daunting, but you know it, right? You teach them to be these things, and then you're like, what? You can't think differently than me, though. And then they say things, literally, I've been told this, but you taught me to think differently. And I'm like, damn, well, I guess I was wrong.
Oh my goodness, that is so true and
Yeah,
valid and likely to happen. More likely to happen than not.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say to that other than bless you.
Yeah.
Adjusting to the journey of your children being not you, that's a hard mothering journey.
It is, and it's true.
Are there any last things that you want to ask about? I know I've got oodles more to talk to you about if you want some time.
I'm good. I'm going to take between now and when we meet again just to think about that question and see what else unearths or comes up.
Great.
Yeah.
Lots to think about, or
Oh, just between now and the next time we connect. So when you say oodles of things, right? Because we have one more planned time together. And
yeah,
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
thank you for your time today. That's
Yeah.
great.
No, I love it. I love having this conversation. And the biggest reason is because I can see you're totally setting her up for living a very intentional life.
That's the hope.
It's as guaranteed as you being enabling kids to think outside the box, and then they therefore will think outside your box. She will live
True.
intentionally. And it's something very
True.
redeeming about it, even for ourselves, because certainly I didn't experience that when I was a kid, not living
No.
outside the box. And knowing that you're doing that for your child, like that's amazing.
Yeah, it is a big shift for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a beautiful week.
You
And
too.
yeah, we'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna go finish my tea.
Thanks, Teresa. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.